All right, we are back here on the Sky Guys podcast, getting ready to do some coverage of this surprise Mandalorian movie that just dropped on us like a week ago. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Join me today, as always, man, is voice of the generation every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Excited to talk about this. I don't think anyone was expecting this, so definitely excited to see what you guys think, and always glad to talk Star Wars with you guys.
Yep. Also is here today, the Chief Creative Officer of our podcast, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. We got some big news, big announcement, and I want to talk about the big announcement with you guys.
Absolutely here. So, Pete, people want to subscribe to the podcast. They can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys favorite podcast platform, find episodes there. And we have a lot of fun stuff coming up here. And I have a feeling we might be getting some Bad Batch news soon. So you want to be subscribed when you get ready to do all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, people have been asking for the trailer, but definitely subscribe. We have a really good content coming out that you guys don't want to miss. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the action here.
Yep. And Nick, if you want to follow us on social media, how can I do that?
You can follow at Sky Guys Podcast. It's on Instagram and it's on Twitter and Threads and TikTok.
Yep. You can also check out the YouTube page, Mike Phillips on YouTube, video versions of the podcast. You see here all our fun phases, all our graphics here, and our props like our pal Lego Mando is here because this is a big Mando week here on the podcast.
Hello, welcome.
Yep. And I also want to give a shout out to we're participating in Star Wars Podcast Day on February 7th here. I'm gonna go here, throw the graphic on the screen here. This is a special, like, unofficial podcast holiday for the Star Wars podcast audiences here. It commemorates the 25th anniversary of the very first episode of Star Wars podcasting. It came from Jedi Talk back in 1999, Pete. So we're taking part as well. We have an episode coming out on Star Wars Podcast Day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited that that's happening. So it's honestly an honor to be and a privilege to be highlighted there. So definitely very cool.
Yeah, Nick, that's good. We have a fun episode planned for that day as well. So
We do. Yeah, I won't spoil it.
it will not spoil it. You'll have to wait to see what's coming on Star Wars Day coming here. But
Yeah.
we do have a little Star Wars news to catch up on, Nick. Not as big as last week's news, but
Yeah, so the Outlaws game that's upcoming is slated to release this year at the end of the year. And there are apparently going to be three different modes. There's going to be an open world exploration, there's going to be space missions, and city quests.
so there's a lot of stuff coming in here. And Pete, I don't know if our friend in Recovery Room, Nick, is going to be very high on Ubisoft trying to pull all this off in less than a year.
Yeah, Ubisoft is an interesting gaming company. I think those three modes are all going to be in one. I think it's just going to be a big open world. You can do all three. I don't think there's going to be separate modes. I think they're marketing it almost like they're separate modes, but I think it's going to be all encompassing. But listen, Ubisoft has made some good titles in the past, so I don't want to bash them too much. This one might be one of the good ones. As of late, they've kind of rushed things out the door. But their Assassin's Creed franchise has been doing well, so who knows? We might be in for a treat here.
Yep. And Nick, I believe you want to talk about this news specifically, the next piece.
Yeah, ABC aired Solo on their Sunday night Disney movie series as of recording, this past Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I think I love when they do stuff like that. Well, it was a little bit even cooler when they were airing Disney Plus exclusives on the networks, but I love when they air this kind of stuff, and I feel that Solo's an underappreciated movie, so I'm glad it's getting its screen time.
Yeah, and from what you were telling me, you said people online are loving Solo right now.
Yes, Pete, every single comment I see says, or when I think there was like an Instagram post that said like Solo is live on ABC tonight at 8. I think ABC posted it, or maybe it was Star Wars. I don't know. But the comments underneath are all overwhelmingly positive on Solo. It's Solo gets blamed for the problems. It wasn't Solo's fault, blah, blah, blah. It was a good movie. I think people wanted more. They set up more, and people were excited. I think Ron Howard did a great job.
Yeah, Pete, maybe we should revisit Solo soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us had Solo pretty accurately in our movie rankings. I think at some point. But I mean, it's a little bit surprising. I thought the overwhelming consensus was that Solo was not liked, but I mean, it's good to hear that people are liking the Star Wars content.
Yeah,
Seems to
sure.
me like it's something that Disney has planted for people to not like Solo
Yeah.
because they don't want people to like Solo because they are not doing any more of it.
Almost like Nickelback. It's like planted that you're not supposed to like them, but there's a very big following of Nickelback.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about Make Solo 2 happen last year. I think that buzz is going to start picking up again.
Maybe, maybe. I doubt it because I think they don't want to do it, but I would love it.
All right. That's it for the news department here.
Yes, that's it.
All right. So now let's get to the main event here. We're building on last week's big news that we got this big surprise announcement of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which is going to be coming. I'd say is going to production this year. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the first movie out of the shoot for Disney next year here. So let's have some general thoughts here. So Nick, you're the one who brought this to our attention first here. So like, how surprised were you when you saw this announcement?
A lot and a little. A lot because wow, I can't believe it's actually happening. A little because there were rumors of it. Those rumors were eventually debunked, and now it turns out they were true. So I was really surprised, but at the same time, it wasn't shocking. But to me, the surprising part is how they're doing it. It's not like what we thought, or this is still happening, but it's not like this Avengers style movie that is still going to happen, but like it's more of the next season kind of thing, which we then found out some more news is that it's like the finale of the season. So like
Allegedly.
alleged, yeah, we don't know that for sure, but I find that part to be surprising, like how they're handling it.
Yeah, and Pete, I do think in terms of this movie here, I'm excited here because like Nick has brought up previously on the podcast the concerns of if people don't go see this Ray movie as opposed to the first out of the shoot here, it might kill all the other Star Wars movies. Like we know people will go see this because even in a bad season 3 of Mandalorian, it's still I think the most watched streaming property on Disney Plus in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be watched. I think box office numbers are going to be great. Just based upon the title, right? I mean, everyone loves the Mandalorian and Grogu. So, I mean, I think if that title sticks, but also too, if people are going, there's going to be a lot more people going to this movie than who watches the show, right? You know, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. You know, person watches the show but never saw. You know, other person doesn't watch it. I feel like the box office numbers are going to be good, and hoping the content will be good. It probably will be. We haven't seen the Mandalorian in a movie format, so that'll be interesting as well. But I think it'll do well.
Yeah, and Nick, we did not mention it or also mentioned last week, not mentioned it yet here. Directed by Jon Favreau, who is the showrunner of Mandalorian. He's the one who brought the Iron Man franchise to theaters and kickstarted the MCU, basically. So you feel confident that we have Favreau doing this movie, not some random person outside the franchise.
Yeah, I feel very confident in the quality of what we're going to get. We have Favreau running the movie. We have a team of Favreau, Kennedy, and Filoni producing the movie. I think the movie's in good hands. I think it will be completely fine in terms of quality. The only thing that worries me about the movie is that this is the first time that I can think of ever where there is not recommended homework to see a movie. There is required homework.
Allegedly.
Even so, even if it's not the finale.
Yeah.
If it's season 4, even there is required homework to see this movie.
Yeah, so let's talk about this.
It's not another movie. Like, of course, you could say any sequel you have required homework because you needed to see in the first one. This is not like that because it's a show. It's not even a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about this for a minute. There's this rumor that came out on day of recording from Jason Ward of Making Star Wars. He's the one who originally had the rumor that this is going to be Mando season 4 is going to a movie. We had original reporting here when it came out. We said, we all kind of assumed, okay, the report was right. This is going to turn season 4 condensed into a movie because they don't have a storyline I think is warranted for a full show. We heard reports from Deadline and said, Mando 4 is still in production. So I read this initially as, okay, we're going to do Mando 4 down the road. We're going to do the movie now. We have another idea for season 4. We're going to do some point maybe after the Filoni movie, the Filoni Avengers team up movie. But we got a reporting today from Jason Ward Making Star Wars. He basically said that right now the plan, Pete, is that we are going to still have season 4, but will only be 6 episodes. And the finale, quote unquote, is going to be this movie. So what do you think about this idea about doing 6 episodes, season 4, and then wait a couple months, you're going to go see the finale in the movie theater?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually okay with it. The reason being is because we saw Mando season 2.5 and Book of Boba Fett. I would consider this season 4.5. I think that there will be an ending or somewhat of an ending to season 4, and then the movie will expand upon it even more. Movie may set up the next season. There might be a deadline to when they have to finish up Mando, or who knows, maybe the movie is a little bit easier to get, Pedro Pascal to like sit down and actually do a project instead of having to do voiceover work, right? But I think it'll work well. I think instead of having to, it worked with Mando season 2.5 Book of Boba Fett, why can't it work here? But to Nick's point, if you need to have 3.5 seasons prior that you have to watch, including the Book of Boba Fett stuff, it's a little difficult. It's not like, we're getting a Mando origin story that you can start from the beginning and be fine with it.
Yeah, I do think you made a great point, considering we had a whole Mando Grogu reunion outside of the Mandalorian show. I could definitely see them saying, hey, you know what, like, we'll have a nice 6-episode season here. We'll have a big cliffhanger at the end of the season, and then we're gonna go to the movie theater and see it, because like this is their big blockbuster character right now. That these two make the most money for Disney, and it makes sense that we can have our cake and eat it too, because we'll get to this and we talk about timing out the Mandoverse stuff right now. Like, there would be a show, sure, if they just scrapped season 4 entirely, made a movie, Nick.
There would be. Yeah. I mean, personally, like selfishly, I'm really excited for this, and I think it's awesome that they're doing it this way. Like, if this rumor is true, I think it's amazing because you and I and Pete, we watch these episodes the minute they go live, and we come on here and we talk about them either the same night or perhaps a day later, whatever. And then we're gonna go to the movie opening night, or maybe the opening weekend at very least. So, like, for us, I think it's fantastic. It just worries me when we're talking about a movie, because a movie, if you're only getting those diehards who are doing that, that's not very good. You need to reach out to the masses, the random guy who sits in your office who goes, "Yeah, I like Star Wars." You need him to show up to the movie, and that for that guy to show up to the movie, you need to entice him either with a great trailer or something that would get him in the theater. And it worries me when you're like, oh yeah, so there's this movie coming out, and you got to watch 4 seasons of a show to watch it. Oh, and another season of this show, and another season of this show. Oh, and it has to do with all. It takes place between this movie and this movie, but we don't really know that because they don't really tell us how far away we are from this one. It's like that's a lot, and that's going to shy people away, I feel like.
Yeah, P, I do think there's also a barrier to entry they can remove here, because I know we've seen them, especially in the writer's strike era of Disney, sort of drop streaming stuff on ABC to get people's eyes on it. I know they dropped the entirety of Miss Marvel out on Disney on ABC before that movie came out. I could see them doing here, like, let's just drop some Mandalorian seasons on like Friday night or Saturday on ABC, so people can watch the show and get into the show before they do the movie. I haven't subscribed to Disney Plus.
I mean, I'll say this. I agree with you, Mike. I think Ahsoka is a perfect representation of how this movie could be successful. You needed to watch Clone Wars and Rebels, or at the very least, Rebels, to understand what's going on in Ahsoka. I don't know how the numbers were for Ahsoka, if it was wildly popular or anything like that, but I feel like there's people that haven't watched Rebels or went to watch Rebels to watch Ahsoka. So I think this still could be very much successful. People like binging shows, right? There's not like a metric ton of episodes. It's not like we're saying go watch, 9 seasons or 7 seasons of Game of Thrones and to watch the movie. This is 4 seasons at, 8 episodes a season. People will binge it and watch it before the movie if they need to. So I think it still could be successful. And I think Ahsoka is a good representation of it.
The problem I have with that is that Ahsoka is a show. And Ahsoka went live on Disney Plus in September or August, whenever it started. I think it started in August, right?
Right.
Yes. And is there forever.
Well,
this is a movie. It's coming out. I'm just going to assume the week before Christmas. That's when they used to do their movies. Who knows? And if you don't go in those 6-7 weeks that it's in theaters, it's gone. So it's like a time frame for someone. Like, someone can easily say, "I'll watch Ahsoka. I'll get around to it. I'll start watching Rebels and Clone Wars now, and then I'll finish in a couple months. It'll still be there for me. It's not going anywhere."
So you're worried more about the box office numbers, not because it's definitely going to go on Disney Plus after the movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know. Like, let's say it's in theaters from Christmas until January 31st.
Right.
I don't think it's going to Disney Plus on February 1st. I think it's going to Disney Plus on June 1st.
Mhm.
So people, I worry about the box office in that sense. People are going to be like, I need to rush and watch this show by this date.
It's fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you'll have enough lead time. I feel like because I feel like you're gonna. This is something they put out 2 years from now. So like, if people want to start watching Mandalorian now, they can be ready for season 4. That's sort of I think the idea of announcing it so early, so people can say, "Hey, I'm interested in this. I'll start watching the show now."
Yeah, I mean, I think they have to be perfectly clear on what's needed to watch the movie. Like, I think it'd be very wise for the showrunners or Disney to say, like, hey, look, you want to watch the Mandalorian movie? Watch these,
Yeah.
right? Like, just this is what you need to watch. Seasons 1 through 4 of Mandalorian, and in between there, after season 2, watch the last 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett so you understand what the hell's going on. So I think it'd be wise for them to be that blatant and that blunt about what is needed to watch the movie. I think people would do it.
That's why I think the ABC release is going to be happening for Mando at some point because like they'll say, "Hey, like here's a free opportunity for you to like put this on your DVR if you don't have Disney Plus and watch the show." So I think that could definitely happen here. Plus, I do think
I agree.
I think it could be also in terms of Ahsoka where we look at things and sort of say, "Hey, like we made this in such a way that like if you haven't seen this show, you're going to have a fun experience." And I feel like if you hadn't seen Rebels, if you just saw Ahsoka from The Mandalorian, I think you still got a good time out of Ahsoka. You may not be as like deeply invested in it as like the three of us are as we saw all of Rebels, but I think you would still enjoy it.
Yeah, I worry about that common fan, that random fan, that casual fan, but that doesn't mean it's for sure not going to happen. Like I still worry about it. We know we're going to go. We know anyone who's come on the podcast, any friend that we've had fill in as a guest or take someone's place when they were away or something. We know they're all going to watch it. We know they've all seen Mandalorian, whatever. But I'm talking to people who haven't seen Mandalorian yet at all. It might be overwhelming to them, even if they are airing it on ABC. Maybe like I want to watch a whole show to see a movie, and maybe the movie's not for them. And maybe they're comfortable with that. Maybe they feel like the numbers we're getting on Disney Plus, if those numbers were in the box office, we're fine.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where they bank on the baby Yoda, Grogu, like merch appeal to get people in the theater. That's what I think their appeal is here.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but like that ship has long sailed.
I think they're still making enough. I mean, you still a lot of Grogu merch out there.
Oh, now, well, yes, because now you could buy everything with him on it. You could buy him. You could buy a keyboard with his face on it.
Yep.
But I feel like the phase, the popularity is not what it was like in 2020.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. But let's also get to another piece of related news that was sort of snuck in the press release here, and people didn't really catch it at first, and then came official. Disney made it abundantly later on here that in addition to this movie here, we have Ahsoka season 2 now in development with Dave Filoni here. They released a little sketch of concept art. It looks like it's Ahsoka and Sabine here standing on the Mordecai statue that Balin was on at the end of the first season here. So season 2 Ahsoka here. We knew we had a good sense it was coming, and now we have official confirmation that it is in development and sounds like it's gonna be coming at some point soon, Pete. Probably in like the next year or two going into production.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what they do with this. It probably will lead into that Mandoverse movie. Again, probably same thing, a little worried about if you have to watch all these shows to understand that movie. But I'm very excited to see what they do with season 2. I'm hoping it's a little bit longer than 8 episodes. I'm kind of getting tired of the 8-episode format. I liked Andor's 12-episode format, and I think something as heavy as Ahsoka was, I think it was 8 episodes for what they were showing was perfect, but I think we can add a little bit more now. Now Thrawn's out and everything like that. So I hoping for a longer season.
I would take 10.
I would take 10 as well. 8 is tough, right? I think 8 was really good for Ahsoka. I think they didn't have to rush through anything, but I feel like now that there's so much that can be happening, Thrawn is off world, can be doing a lot more. I feel like it can start to get rushed, and I don't want that. So if they elongate the episodes, I think it'll give it a little bit more room to breathe.
Plus, Nick, I also feel like that we're going to spend a lot of time with Ahsoka and Sabine exploring this planet they're on Paradia, and seeing what's up with this Mortis statue thing. We might get a recast of Balin in this thing, but I feel like there's like a lot of way here. Plus, you have Ezra back in the main galaxy, all New Republic shenanigans. He tries to convince them that Thrawn is back with Hera. So I do think that there's like you could jam way too much in 8 episodes. You're trying to squeeze at the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. Unless there's some sort of time jump, we don't know how they're going to handle it. I mean, it wouldn't be significant time jump, maybe like 2 months, and they've been exploring. But I find this hilarious that they announced this at the same time they announced the movie, and no one saw it because no one opened the article. They just read it, and then they were like, "No one's like talking about this. We got to make this more clear." And then they had to post a separate thing about it. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, because I happened to read the entire press release. See, it's literally the last line. It's like, here's our film slate, and Ahsoka season 2 is developed by Dave Filoni. I'm like, oh, Ahsoka got picked up. They kind of snuck it in.
They just didn't feel like they needed to mention it like that, and they were like, "Yeah, I think we should mention that more clearly."
Yeah, I think that was funny here, but at least to some an important question here before we have some fun with a character draft here. We have some timing discussed here with some projects here because we have a lot of Mandoverse content sort of popping up here. We have I'm going to put a graphic up in the post production version here. What I think we have dealing with here. So we have obviously Skeleton Crew coming out.
I didn't even know Skeleton Crew was part of Mandoverse.
It is.
That's news to me.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew season 1 is in here. We have this movie. We have this 4th season of Mandalorian, Ahsoka season 2, and the Dave Filoni movie here. So right now, what we know is Nick, last we were operating on, we relieved that Skeleton Crew was being delayed till holiday season this year, correct?
Yeah, and one more quick thing before we move into this segment here. I think that the announcement of Ahsoka season 2 this quickly, which is about 3 months after Ahsoka ended, roughly,
Yep.
shows us that we're not getting a Boba Fett season 2. We're not getting an Obi-Wan season 2. If we were, that would have been announced nearly immediately. Like that would have been announced a year or two ago.
I think Obi-Wan's definitely done. I think Boba Fett, they're just hanging on to him, like in case like they are.
They might have him show up in like this in some of these other shows or the movie or whatnot, but I don't think we're going. I don't think we're getting another show. I think this is kind of proof to show that like whenever there is another show, they pretty much announce it right away.
Yeah. So in terms of the content we have coming up here, I think this year we obviously have Bad Batch 3 is probably first, then Acolyte. I would assume is probably the Ahsoka time slot in August. Skeleton Crew around the holidays. Next year, we have Andor season 2. And then, Nick, there would be a big hole in the schedule because there's nothing else really like on the docket other than Andor. So I think this is why the rumor about season 4 happening, like maybe fall next year, makes sense.
It does like make a lot of sense, and I am begging Lucasfilm and Disney Plus and Star Wars and Disney as a whole and everyone involved in that process, please do not overlap these shows.
Yeah, please.
Please, it is the worst thing when they do that. I don't understand why they did that with Mando and Bad Batch when they did. Please don't do it again.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. I think now they're trying to only have to do 2 animated shows, 2 live action shows a year instead of 3. I think helps. I also look at it as sort of, hey, like you do that. We put Mandalorian 4, the 6 episodes out around the same time frame as Skeleton Crew, like was like holiday 25. You can end right before Christmas and say, hey, movie's coming in 6 months because they have a May release date on the calendar. I think that's sort of what they're looking at.
Do like an early May Marvel release.
Yeah, they have a May and a December 2026 in the books. I think May is going to be that one. I think the Ray one's coming after that.
Well, that would actually help with my my fear that was the Ray movie not doing well and really messing up the plans of the future. If this movie does do well, I think it'll carry over into the Ray movie to doing well, regardless if people are annoyed or they're just excited to see Star Wars again because they like the movie they just saw. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think you'll get Ahsoka late 2026, and then that'll sort of tee up your next movie, like the following movie to end of 2027. That's my general theory. I don't think you guys agree or disagree on this.
So long, we're gonna be so old.
Huh. Jeez.
Yeah. But I think the timing wise, that makes sense. I don't think they want to go with less than 2 live action shows a year on Disney Plus, and having 6 episodes of Mando in there does give them something because I know that Lando's not a show anymore. They might do another season of Acolyte. Andor is done after this season, so like they don't have much in the pipeline we know of.
Can I say one more thing on how happy I am here? Is that almost every time we get an announcement from Star Wars, it's from some random Twitter that no one's heard of, and it says Han Solo 2 is in development and this and that and all these movies and shows that are. I'm so happy we got a tweet from the official Star Wars Twitter account where it's actually confirmed. There, of course, there were rumors the last couple of months about the same thing happening, but but then they were debunked, and now we actually had a tweet that just came out and said, "This is what's happening. That's it. There's no speculation. Is it true? Is it not true? This is it." Very happy about that.
Yeah, I think it's the right call here, Pete, to sort of like just get the audience hyped up here because I think not coincidental, this came out about a week after the director of the Ray movie made those comments about how like it's about time women led the thing because we know Star Wars fans base tends to get like triggered by certain things. They say, "Oh look, we had this in the works. Let's just put it out here now and get the negative vibes out of our timeline."
I think it's because they're confident in the projects. I think any project that they hide and try to hide and it just comes out at random sometimes is not the best project. I find that the projects that are announced a year and a half prior are the ones they're super confident about. They're going to be good, and you know they're happening. So I think that's more of it. I think they're confident in the project. They know they want people to get hyped up for it. And that's why they just full blown came out and said, "Hey, we're getting all this." So kudos to them for just telling us instead of leading us on here.
I agree with Pete.
Yep. So next thing we're gonna do here has a little fun here because we're gonna do this for the Ray movie next week. This is originally supposed to be the Ray movie slot. We're gonna push it back a week because this news ain't to be discussed here. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a character draft for this Mando movie. So whenever we get to our Mando movie preview podcast, we have this already done because Pete would not be as fun to try and do this when we have the whole cast list.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do for this spear is we're gonna come up first a scoring system because appearance is kind of basic because it's only one movie and if they're either in it or not. So we're gonna come up with a scoring system here. So this is my proposal here, guys. So here's what I think. We should have a scoring system. 1 point if your character is mentioned. 2 points if their voice appears, they don't physically appear. Like if they're on the other end of a communication. 3 3 points if they appear as a hologram in a communication. 4 points they physically appear in like a cameo kind of role. 5 points their main cast, but you only get the highest amount of points. So for example here, Nick, let's say you drafted Grief Karga here. Grief Karga calls Mando's ship at the beginning of the movie, then he shows up at the end of the movie and is like on the team. So at that point you get 5 points for Grief, not 7 total.
Makes sense.
All right, so since you are the reigning champion, you can make the draft order because this is still carrying over from the Ahsoka draft. So,
you beat me.
all right, so I'm first, Pete second, Nick is third. This is
The only issue I have with the scoring system, and I got to speak up about it before if this gets out of hand.
Yeah,
we need to be in agreement on what is considered a cameo and what is considered a main role. I know we can do that based on the cast list, but I just want to be. I think we should just combine them into one. If you physically appear, it's 4 points.
I think
for me, it's like if you go to a Wikipedia page, I'll go, for example, to Star Wars: The Last
You
Jedi.
see the cast there. I see what you're saying. I do, but
it's like
I think if they just show up, it should just be the same.
How about this? If they show up and have like one line, it's a 4-pointer. But if they have multiple lines and they're in multiple scenes, they're a main role. They're a supporting actor or a main actor or actress, right?
If you're in
because what I'm basically trying to say is there's middle ground there, and I think Pete's covering that right now by saying that because a main cast role and a supporting cast role versus a cameo role, I think we should do like what Pete just said. A cameo would be you're in one scene tops, and a main role would be you're in more than one scene.
Like Zeb in Mando. That was a cameo.
Yes.
But let's say Carson Teva, who was in a bunch of the scenes in that season or that episode, main role points.
Yeah. Yeah. So like in the Last Jedi example here, Yoda, when he's one scene with Luke, would be a cameo. But like, for example, Benicio del Toro DJ character, like that the Codebreaker guy is the main character. He's in multiple scenes, has multiple lines.
Agreed. Yep. Agreed. All right. I think we're ready to do this.
All right. So just to be clear for everybody listening here, the ineligible characters here are just Mando and Grogu because they are in the title of the movie. Everybody else in the entire Star Wars galaxy is on the board.
That's why we're doing this now, as compared to doing this, let's say, a month before the movie comes out when we have the whole cast list and then we're just guessing cameos at that point.
Yes, and that's not fun because there's a chance we all hit zeros on that list.
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead here. I'll start out the board here. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the co-lead lead of season 3. I'm gonna take Bo-Katan as the first pick to appear in this Mandalorian movie. I feel like that Mando will definitely end up sometime on Mandalore. She's gonna be the leader of Mandalore. There's season 4. She's gonna have an arc in the season, so I feel like we're definitely gonna get Bo-Katan.
All right. Am I going?
You may go.
I'm going with Carson Teva. Feel like he's been in everything. So I'm just gonna hedge my bets here and just put him there.
The Phil Coulson of the star of the Mandoverse, Nick.
Yeah.
He's
I will take this draft in a different direction. I'm going to take Ahsoka and Sabine.
Yeah, the snake picks. You're assuming at this point, Nick. You're assuming that they're going to be back from the other galaxy before the season 2 of Ahsoka.
I didn't say that.
You think we're going to go to the other galaxy in this season?
I think they'll just be in the show or the movie, rather.
Yeah. So, Pete, what do you think about that?
I'll tell you what I think. I think I'm going to take Thrawn for my second pick, and I think we may get the Mando Thrawn meetup in the movie. Finally, I think it's all going to build up to that.
Yeah. So you think the climax is that Mando runs into Thrawn?
Not runs in. That's the main. I think at this point, right? I think we need some answers as to what's going on in Mando, and I think Thrawn's going to be behind it. So I think we're going to get Thrawn in the movie.
Yeah, it does interesting, Nick, when you think about it here, because we pick up with where Mando leaves off in season 3 is that he's sort of unofficially working for the New Republic as like a bounty hunter, and he's going to collect missions for them. I could see where he does a couple missions in season 4, and then he gets the big one, and that's where he ends up running into Thrawn's people.
My question to you is, how confident are you that season 2 of Ahsoka comes after season 4 of Mando?
Very.
Why is that?
Because if they're doing this together, they're shooting this year. Ahsoka's still in development right now, so
you think just getting this straight, you think it takes shorter to film and develop an entire season of a show plus a movie as compared to just a season of a show?
they don't even have they literally just started development on Ahsoka too, which means you still got to go through add more casting, you have to recast Ray Stevenson, pre-production, production, post-production. Like if they're dropping the ball on this,
are we talking story timeline or timeline of when it comes out?
It comes
Release.
Release.
I think if Filoni is wrapped up in everything going on Mando, he's not going to have time to do what he needs to do for Ahsoka. It may have to take a back seat for a little bit.
That's why I think he'll be working.
You don't think vice versa is a possibility?
No, I think for sure this is coming after this movie.
We'll see. I don't think.
Do you think season 2 of Ahsoka is coming after the movie?
After this,
it's coming first.
Based on the timeline we laid out a few minutes ago, I think we're getting.
You think Mando season 4 and the Mando movie are coming out prior to season 2 of Ahsoka?
Correct, I do.
That's it. I'm with Nick. I think Ahsoka comes out probably. I'll go as heavy to say same year as season 4 of Mando.
I think Ahsoka might come out in the fall of next year.
That's where I thought the Mando slot. Basically, that's where I think it's Mando's 4 is going.
So then, yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Hot take: they run concurrently.
No, please no.
No, they definitely will not do that. Those two are too strong to put them like right behind each other.
But we'll see. That's a good debate point. We'll see because we don't really know. Honestly, it depends on, like you just said. Pete said, like, oh, Filoni is so wrapped up in this, he won't have time for this. But like, we'll see what his priority is at the time. If he's more involved in Ahsoka will come first. If he's more involved in Mandalorian will come first.
Yeah, I think in terms of that situation here, I think that's definitely what's going on. But I'm up now for 2 more picks here, so I will add Greef Karga because he's in every Mando season. He will definitely be in this movie. And I'm going to add the Armorer because I definitely think we're going to get like her checking with Din about his quest. I think that's definitely a lock. All right, so Pete now is up for another pick.
Oh, brother. I'm gonna go Zeb.
You think Zeb is going to be working with Carson Tave on this
I
movie?
think Zeb is going to be in the upcoming seasons of Ahsoka and Mando is going to be very, very much involved. So I think he'll be in the movie.
Interesting.
I am going to round out the Rebels family, and I'm going to take Hera and Chopper.
All right, so you're taking both of them.
Yep. So I have Hera, Chopper, Sabine, and Ahsoka. I'm all Rebels invested.
You're the Ahsoka show, basically. That's your team.
Yep.
All right, so Pete, one more pick.
I'm gonna stick with Rebels and say Ezra. I think we are getting Thrawn. I think we're getting the culmination of all these shows together in this movie. And I think this is where Mando meets Ezra. Maybe he meets Ezra in season 4, Mando. I don't know, but I'm gonna go Ezra if we got Thrawn.
All right, there's a lot of options here that could definitely fill this board out here.
Say Mythosaur. Say Mythosaur.
I will not be taking the Mythosaur because we have characters from other shows we haven't touched on. We have dangling plot points. Boba Fett you could see brought into this show. You have characters Mando's interacted with here. I think I'm going to take the home run swing here. I'm going to say that let's say Luke's back. I'm going to say Luke's introduced again in this movie because I think when you get to this Heir of the Empire movie, you're going to need some way to have your big three involved in it because it'd be very strange to not have them at least like cameo show up for the big moment against Thrawn. So I think you're going to get reintroduced to Luke here.
I like your team a lot. I think you have a team that makes sense in the world of the Mandalorian.
Yeah. All right. So to reset the teams here, I have Bo-Katan, Reef Karga, the Armorer, and Luke Skywalker. Pete is taking Carson Teva, Ron, Zeb, and Ezra. Nick is the Ahsoka show team. It's Ahsoka, Sabine, Hera, and Chopper. So those are our teams here. So in terms of anybody who did not get picked, who else do you want to throw out here? Because I feel like we have a lot. We could go for like 5 rounds if we wanted to.
Mon Mothma.
Could be.
Vizsla, maybe.
I think. Oh, which Vizsla? Because Pad died.
Oh yeah, so not him, I guess.
Polymato.
Yeah, it wouldn't honestly wouldn't shock me if Moff Gideon showed up.
Pelimato is definitely a lock. I think. He's
Polymato. Oh, we didn't even touch the Boba Fett and Fennec.
Right.
Yeah. Cobb Vanth. That storyline has been dangling since the end of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I'm actually expecting Moff Gideon to show up. He had all those clones.
Yeah. I think one's having to sneak away at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be like the Avatar 2 thing where like we killed the villain, but now we cloned him and he's back again.
Right. Yeah. My team entirely just comes down to the fact of if Ahsoka comes first, I'm looking good. If Ahsoka doesn't come first, I'm looking real bad.
You might hit a 0 then.
Well, I think I can get Hera and Chopper regardless, but Ahsoka and Sabine, who I'm banking on being heavily involved in the movie, if the show comes, if the season 2 comes after, then I'm getting 0 out of those 2.
Yeah, I think Pete.
Well, I guess not 0. They'd probably be mentioned.
Yeah, you get mentions for sure. That's why I just think the way we have multiple ways you get points.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think the Luke one is going to be fun, Pete, because like if I know Mark Hamill said he's done with the Star Wars, but like maybe them putting Solo on TV is something that maybe they're willing to consider the recast route, and we get a younger actor playing Luke Skywalker.
I don't know. I feel like Luke Skywalker's character is not in a fight. I mean, it sounds like he's just peaceful trying to get a Jedi school go. Like, I don't think he's fighting anyone between the time of episode 6, even 7, between episode 6 and 8. I just feel like he's trying to get his Jedi, order started again. So I don't know about that.
Do you think they need Mark Hamill?
I don't. I think this might be a sign they might recast.
But like they use a guy to like do the face, right? Like how does that work? Do they need Mark Hamill for that?
The voice, more likely.
Right, because that guy, who I don't know the guy's name, the actor who now plays the deepfake version, they don't need Mark Hamill to make the appearance of the character. It's just the voice at this point.
Yes, if you taking Mark Hamill his word that he's done, because he basically said it's time to retire Luke Skywalker. So I got he could be, playing us all and be open to it if they give him the right idea. But like, I think like at least the character should be at least be referenced in this movie because if you're having a big crisis in the galaxy here and there's one Jedi around, you think they're gonna try to give him a phone call.
Let me tell you, a hot take for a cameo that you need a deep fake to de-age Han Solo.
Yeah. You could get
Because
it.
I can see there being a world, if it's bounty hunters and all that kind of stuff, I can see a world where Han is involved, obviously after episode 6 and stuff like that, but that would be a crazy cameo probably no one would be expecting.
I think no one would be expecting Donald Glover showing up as Lando.
Nor him. Yeah, either of those two, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
Let's just be clear that our draft here is for the movie, not the season that comes prior.
The season will be a separate draft.
Well, assuming that's true, the season thing.
If we get a season, we're drafting only for the 6 episodes that we're gonna get.
Right. And this is for the movie that we'll be seeing in theaters.
Yes. And like we could be watching this, get this cast list, and that might inform some of our picks for the draft if they're not.
Let me tell you something. If that season comes out and some of our characters get just axed off the show, yeah, we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, this is why we're doing. This is the risk you do it in January of 2024 for movies coming in 2020.
Sabine, Hera, and Chopper are on a ship, and the ship gets blown up.
That would be
the end of me.
That would be the end. That would be the end of Nick's team.
I don't know. Carson Tave has been getting into some sketchy situations, I feel. So I don't know if Carson.
Yeah, I can easily see him dying soon.
Yeah.
If we're following the Phil Coulson path, he's going to die in the Team Up movie, and then he's going to be the reason they all come together.
Then he's going to come back to life and get his own TV show on ABC.
Oh, Disney Plus at this point. It would be like it actually Reigns of the New Republic rebooted.
Yeah, I was just talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I know, I was joking. This would be our equivalent. It would be Reigns of the New Republic with like Secret Carson Tava, like resurrected up from went to
that'd be cool.
Went to Space Miami for a couple of weeks and got better. All right, I think that's a good place to leave it here. So next week we're gonna do the same thing for the Rey movie here. We'll have a few was it the Rey movie draft and Nick, that was gonna be a lot more challenging because we know one character's here, but like a lot of people are dead at this point whenever they're talking about doing this movie.
Yeah, there's not many characters left to talk about. Either they've died or the characters that are alive. We've heard from a lot of the actors, they're not doing it. So, I mean, they could easily be lying, but then again, I can't think of one character off the top of my head, so it'd be a fun draft.
I did make a list. I think it's very there are very interesting ways you can go with this. But I think you have to dive back into Ride of Skywalker, cast to sort of give you ideas what you want to do for that draft beat.
Yeah, I need to watch that movie again.
I agree. I think a lot of the actors that say they don't want to do it probably haven't been approached with a script or anything like that. I'm sure that if they're approached with a script that they like, they'll consider it. I think it's more the idea of it. They're like, nah, because they knew how the first 3 went. But yeah.
Well, for a long time, we thought Daisy Ridley was done with Star Wars, and then she came back.
Right. I mean, look, if you're approached with the story and you read the story over and you like it, you're allowed to change your mind. It's not unheard of.
The only one I would sort of take at his word right now, Nick, is Adam Driver. I don't think we're getting Adam Driver back.
Yeah, agreed. I kind of take John Boyega's word too, very seriously.
I believe John Boyega recently said that he was open to it in the right situation.
I thought he said the exact opposite, but maybe we're looking at different sources.
Well, that's for sure. I thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it as always here. People want to follow you on social media. How can they do that?
At Consy29 on Twitter, CONSY 29 on Twitter.
Nick, one more time, people follow us on social media.
At Sky Guys Podcast. It's on Instagram, it's on Twitter, it's on Threads, and it's on TikTok.
Yep. You can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This is going to Just in the Suffering podcast. We have more NFL playoff coverage coming here. There's a lot of fun stuff going on there, but we'll be back here next week with the Rey movie draft. Until then, everybody, may the Force be with you.